All right, I'm here with Stuart Brauer, the man. Welcome, Stu.
What's up? Well, good to see you again.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks, months. I don't know. I feel like I see you every day, to be honest.
That's the goal, is to try to, especially with organic, right? Organic Facebook. I can't run ads because I swear in my videos. So I have to post like 9 to 12 times a day just so I'm in front of people organically. But yeah, no, it's been a few months since our podcast. I got so much good feedback on that. I had a lot of people DM me, and you get that, and I'm sure you get this as well. Like, oh, that really, but I had a lot of people really like that one. So I was excited to do this again. So,
well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm sure you will get the same response from our, listeners and audience. And I'm sure there's a lot of overlap out there. But I was talking with my wife this morning. There's like so much noise on social media. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that? What do you think about? And I think you and I are somewhat guilty of this. But what do you think of the people that are like throwing out life advice left and right, and they don't have their shit together?
My favorite place to go that compares social media now in 2019 to the real world is New York City. Times Square, New York City. You look around and you could have a seizure with how many lights and flashing, look at me and look at this. And then on the street, some dude screaming like God is coming in the rapture and you're a fornicator and a masturbator and you're going to die. And then you have another dude playing the violin with his toes. And then you have some woman sing literally. Times Square in New York City is very much like social media today. There's just so much to look at and certain things will grab your attention. Here's the deal is people who give advice and then some of us are going to look at it and be like, bro, what are you giving life advice for? You live on your mom's couch, or a business owner trying to create, trying to do a business coaching company and he's still struggling with his business. We're all going to find that. But at the least, my guess is they're going to at least say one thing that one person's going to find valuable. And I'll tell you this, it does. We all get kind of that endorphin high and that drip when we produce a piece of content, we put ourselves out there and people give us the pat on the back in the form of a like, a follow, a thumbs up. That is good. It's the same way that in class, nothing makes us feel better as a coach than when someone's like, dude, I actually picked up both my kids the other day, double arm, deadlifted them both up, cleaned them up to my shoulders, and we played for hours. Like that is like the equivalent. So do I think there's a bunch of like hucksters out there? 100%. But at the end of the day, they're going to at least help one person. And those that are in the know will scroll past, kind of scenario.
Well, and that's what it is. You nailed it. I mean, I've heard people like Simon Sinek talk about it. It's a dopamine hit.
Yeah.
And it's free.
It's free.
But that's why people are checking their phone, hundreds of times every day just for that. Like you need that hit. And it's a challenge I've really had to overcome. Like you can't, decide how much you're worth based on how many followers and how many likes you're getting on a picture.
100%. And I've literally taken it to the point where I've started writing kind of I start writing notes on certain topics that I think about. And sometimes it might take me months, maybe if not a year or so, to really cultivate it. But like, I sometimes feel like I'm married. I feel like I'm having an affair on my wife with the amount of love I put into X amount of thousands of strangers every single day. And the amount of effort, especially because creating content is my full-time job now. And I look at that transaction, and that's the same transaction I might have with my wife. Let's just sitting on the couch, chilling and watching Netflix. And maybe I forego her transaction with her to have one and edit a video so that, 10,000 strangers give me a high five digitally. And it's very interesting when you get into the deep psychology of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're doing it. But yeah, social media it's a blessing and a curse. I think of social media, its real reason is to create influence, whether you monetize it or not. Right? The idea of like sharing and community, and I want to see what my friends are doing is one thing. But I ultimately just to create influence, to say something and have someone listen and either be, they liked what you said, you moved them, you made them laugh, you inspired them, whatever, and then you move on. And then it just depends how often you want to go back to that well and do that for people for free. And then can you monetize it later on down the road?
Yeah. If it's not becoming something that you can monetize, why are you doing it?
Sure. And you could just be like, you like to be given a sermon. You're kind of like, you're just like giving a sermon and talking shop on certain things. And I think honestly, some of the people that have done that have been able to monetize it the best, and I'll even throw myself in this category, didn't start off with monetization goals. They just started making content. And I think that's when it comes off very authentic. Every gym owner now knows the Chandler Tildresses and the Alex Hermosis of the world and all the guys that are just popping up in your feed trying to get you to sign on for a webinar, ebook, or how they got 7 other gyms, 400 members in 3 hours, right? Like those kind of guys. And that just we all know that's so huckster. We all know that like that car salesman thing. So then when you come across someone that doesn't want a thing and they seem very raw, it pulls you in. You're just more attracted to that. So it's kind of like, you ever pass by a panhandler as you get off the highway or as you're driving, and you'll see some guys that have like a sign that says like veteran of foreign wars, whatever. And you're like, yeah, I've seen that before and I might not give him $1. However, you've seen these viral videos where it's a guy in a suit with resumes handing them out on the highway. And instead of asking for money, he's handing out resumes on the highways to people. And there's been stories that these guys have gone viral and they get a job working at Google. Right? Like it's a different way to grab attention. And I think the authentic, non-needing to monetize it kind of way is just a unique approach that people will listen to.
Well, I live in Naples, Florida, so we don't have homeless people. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. No, we actually do have one guy at the bottom of 75 when I get off, and you're right. It's like you've been there, done that. Yeah. All right. I told you beforehand I wanted to ask you some fun questions. We're going to talk about all you got going on with the Microgym and all the WTF stuff. But first and foremost, my big question to you, Stu, is, recently there was this Bagel Boss guy. Have you seen the Bagel Boss guy?
No.
So talking about viral videos, it's this 4'11" dude. If you're listening to this, pause, go Google Bagel Boss guy. He's this 4'11" dude. He has a meltdown in a bagel shop. So, and everyone's talking about how the fact that he's 4'11", and he's had a hard life. And I'm like, dude, I'm 5'3". I didn't really ever think about it from that perspective. Like, I'm short. Now, Stu, I don't know that you've ever thought about this, but you have a disadvantage as well in the sense that you're redhead.
Yeah, I'm a ginger, yeah.
What has been the biggest challenge in your life because you're a redhead?
This is so good. So I remember I was in college and I lived in a house with a bunch of guys, and all of a sudden everyone is roaring laughing in a room. And it's one of our buddies' room. And I go down there and they're watching that episode, the very first episode of South Park, where the ginger episode, and ginger became a thing. It was like 2006 or something like that, 7 maybe. And ginger became a title for a redhead. Before that, it was fire crotch. That was like the derogatory term for a ginger, right? Yeah, the fire crotch is a great one. And so but it really wasn't, it didn't really affect me. Just you had, the second you see something like that and South Park, right? And it's going to catch on and be super popular, a term, you have to just embrace it and you have to be on the defensive of it. So I saw that as like, I'm never, ever going to live down ginger. That's going to be a thing for the rest of my life. Like I just like in that moment I knew, so I need to just embrace it. Right. So whenever I'd introduce myself, I'd be meeting girls, and like me and my buddies would go up to a couple girls in college and they'd be like, oh, I'm John. I'm like, I'm Stu. I'm their ginger buddy. So I could get to the joke before anybody else fucking could. Right. But honestly, that also, I think something like that when you're short or when you're fat, and you've seen this, comedians like Ralphie May, there's plenty of comedians that self-deprecate on themselves, but like when you can find the thing is going to be teasable or laughable, and someone could when you can own it first, you have full control of the narrative. You are the first to break the story. You're the first to have control of it. And now nobody can joke on you when you joke on yourself first. And that was a life lesson I definitely learned as a redhead once that ginger episode at South Park dropped.
Yeah, I talked about that with my buddies. I was like, I never thought about it. You guys look at me as short, and they're like, well, you're obviously short, but you have a big personality. So I think it kind of overrides that. And, in retrospect, I'm like, did I develop this personality because I was short, or would that have happened everywhere? But yeah, you got to get ahead of those jokes. Yeah.
And you start developing quick little one-liners. Like people will be here at Urbn Mvmnt in my gym, and they'll be like, where are you from? And they're like, oh, whatever. And I'm like, oh, I'm from Cleveland. And I moved down here, us gingers, we're tropical people. We want to be by the sunshine. And I'll like joke around with them. And, we tan in beautiful shades of red. And like, you'll just like come up with little one-liners that just allow you to own it. And now no one else can joke on you.
Yeah. My buddy in college was super redhead, super pale. And we'd say, you just turn pink. Like you go from white to pink.
Yeah. From translucent to lobster, like that.
All right. So you brought something up that I had done a little digging. You're from Cleveland, Ohio.
I am.
And I did a little bit of a research, and there's a place called Jack Frost Donuts.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Jack Frost Donuts?
Not as much as other Clevelanders would be, but familiar enough, I think.
Okay, but I also found something called a Polish Boy.
Yeah. So, Cleveland's got a big Irish and a big Polish network, and so there's a Polish Boy, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what that is, and have you had one recently?
I have. So I am one thing I would never be invited on a culinary based podcast. I have the worst palate ever. I could eat literally anything. I'm like, oh yeah, it's great. Doesn't matter. A Polish Boy, and there's a lot of traditional panini sandwiches and cultural Polish and Irish too, corned beef and cabbage, right? And all these delicacies and the Polish people and the Irish people are not known for their food. Let's just face it, right? That's not their thing. But there are a couple joints in Cleveland that are in the traditional kind of those, very Polish or Irish American neighborhoods. And now that you're mentioning those names, that does ring a bell. But yeah, I honestly don't even know if I've ever had one. I've heard people talk about it, but I'm probably the only Irish kid in Cleveland, Ohio, that's also maybe had corned beef and cabbage one time in his life.
That was another big food there. I looked that up, and it was some really great.
I was never did it for me. Cleveland, I'm flying out to Ireland here at the end of August. I'm doing a speaking thing out there, and I'm like, everyone's like, oh, what's the one thing you're really excited to go to Ireland for? And I've been there before. I'm like, well, sure as hell isn't the food. That's for sure, But it's, so I couldn't even tell you what is in this sandwich, but it is. I'm the outlier. People love that stuff. There's the market downtown Cleveland, and there's a bunch of little Polish shops set up, and they sell all kinds of different, traditional native delicacies, and people they wait in line for hours for them. I think I'm just the outlier.
All right. So your podcast and your business is all based around this WTF.
Yes.
Those of us, we understand what the fuck, but where did that come from originally? Why did you decide to go with WTF?
So as a business owner, I constantly had these palm the forehead WTF moments, right? Where I would just be sitting there and the city would hit me with some kind of a business registration bill I didn't even know was a thing, and I now owe $2,000. I'm like, what the fuck? Or the plumbing blew out, and then when I go to look at my my lease that wasn't covered by my landlord, I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Or that client sends you an email and they're bitching about something and they need this, or they're just being maybe a pain in the ass prospect. I'm like, oh, what in the fuck? I just had these all the time. And I am, again, being from Cleveland, I was growing up as a kid watching the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland, Ohio, and my grandparents and my family, very vulgar individuals. I was the kid on the playground swearing at the earlier age than anybody else. And so it just matched my style a little bit. It's, it's my linguistics and my communication. And me and my wife, when we go out in public, she'll tap me and she's like, you need to turn down the Cleveland in you for this group of people. We're meeting with your daughter's teachers. And so WTF was also, but I also from a marketing perspective, I looked at what everyone was doing that was helping gym owners, and I knew I needed to stand out. And I looked at guys I consider one of the original pioneers, Chris Cooper, right? Two Brain Business, amazing dude, smart guy, written all these amazing books. He had a very vanilla, and not a bad way, Chris, if you listen to this, but this very straightforward delivery. And I looked at everyone else, and there was really no one that was kind of shock jockey. There was nobody that was a little aggressive. And so I thought my personality would fit great with that. So that's kind of where what the fuck came from.
Yeah, and it is your personality. Like we say in coaching, Fern and I talk about presence and attitude.
Yes. You
had an 11. Yep. I don't think you are cursing, 24/7. You have a wife, you have kids.
Yeah.
But it is certainly you. If you're talking offline, you get the same Stu. Now,
oh, yeah.
Where's the worst place you accidentally cursed?
The worst place I've ever accidentally cursed. I don't think I did. Me and my wife eloped. We hired a documentary crew to follow us around and do our entire nuptials in the public place in the Skyrise up in Boston. I don't know if I cursed during the vows, I forgot something maybe and I swore, but I would say now it's probably around my daughter. I'll be her name's Francie, but I call her Gus. I'm like, Gus, hand me the fucking pacifier. Oh shit. And then catch myself because I'm just I use fuck as an adjective for anything, and in a good way, a positively way, good way. I would say probably my daughter is probably, and I'm doing my best to to curb that, because I definitely don't want to be having to get called into parent-teacher conferences because she's the first one on the playground to swear. But yeah, I don't think I've ever really cursed anywhere where I got publicly scorned for it. Maybe if I get invited on some like Christian podcast at some point, that might be somewhere that we might have to get some bleeps and some censored editing going in afterwards.
I don't think you have to worry about that. but that did lead me to my question. So you call your daughter Gus.
Yeah.
When and will it be acceptable for her to curse? Is it going to be at home?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, here's the thing is I'm very George Carlin is a comedian. For any of you guys who are maybe younger, he's my favorite comedian. I got to see one of his last stand-up specials in Cleveland before he died. I wanted to do stand-up in high school. That was like one of my pipeline dreams, right? And I loved all his stuff. And I believe a lot of his thesis was that there's no such thing as a bad word. It's the context in which you do it, in which you say it. And fuck is the most versatile word it's an adjective, an adverb, a noun, a verb, it's a pronoun. It's everything. It's the most versatile. If she swears, I won't be as upset. What I'll want to know is the context. Were you being mean to somebody? Were you trying to make someone laugh? Did you just stub your toe on the end table? Did you realize you forgot your homework? And I'm just going to want to know the context. And as long as you're not doing it to belittle another person or make another person feel bad or intimidated or use it to be nasty in any way, I'm probably going to be okay with it. Just don't do it around your mother.
Yeah, I think actually that's why you and I get along so well, because I love comedians. Carlin is, of course, famous for his 7 words you can't say, but I would
shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tit, fart, turd, and twat.
All right. Well, there you go. Play that back in slow motion if you want to hear it. But, I was watching recently comedians in cars getting coffee, and there's a whole conversation about, can you make this joke about the Holocaust? And it's like, sure, this shit is very offensive. But I was telling Roz, my wife, I don't get offended by anything. And I think that's why I resonate with comedians so well. Yeah. It's like, hey, yeah, there's a difference between making a Holocaust joke to be very funny and because you admit this is a terrible thing and we never want it to happen again versus I hate Jewish people.
100%. I've seen that around, even around 9/11, and I was living in New Jersey at the time, and there were comedians that came out and had HBO specials. Carlin was one of them. And there was just so much opportunity to take horrible tragedies and come up with one thing that even the closest person to that event would laugh at. Now, 9/11 is a little bit different. There's nobody still around that suffered during the Holocaust, right? So it's a little bit different, but I mean, I agree.
Right?
Yeah, very few. But yeah, no, I agree 1,000%. I think laughter is the best medicine in every situation. In every situation.
All right, I'm going to ask you one more question kind of off the topic before we dive into what you excel at. But you are doing great so far. So you have your child. I was looking through your Facebook. You have a functional video out there where you're basically comparing farmer's carry to trips from the car.
Yeah, the grocery bag stuff, yeah.
I need you to be honest with me. You get home with your kid, how many trips are you making from the car to the front door?
There's a lot of trips. You got especially on trips, like when you take the baby somewhere on vacation, you've got the pack and play and the car seat and 17 binkies and all this stuff. That video was definitely aimed at our avatar that live in apartments and they walk to the grocery store and all that. But as a father, that if I would have made that video for a suburban avatar client, somebody who lives like me, who has got a kid and maybe lives in a single family home, it would have been a little bit different. It would have been more like a sandbag carry 3 times through.
When you have to do that, do you feel like less of a man though?
No, especially the worst was I didn't have my wife didn't allow me to have a car seat in my vehicle for a very long time. Because I'm always recording a podcast when I drive or I'm taking a call. She knows I'm always working. So it just wasn't she's like, I don't need you having a car seat in there. But once we got to the point where it was absolutely necessary, it was less practical. My daughter was going to pre-2K school or whatever they call it. And I would unload stuff and my buddy, because I was the first one married, the first one with kids out of my entire friend group. My buddies would just tease the shit out of me, right? And now they're all in the same, and they're like, hey, man, they're calling and FaceTime me. Can you help me? How do I install this car seat? And now it's funny. Now it's like, now I see. Now you need me. But yeah, no, in the beginning, my buddies would razz the shit out of me.
All right, let me ask you some real questions. And those were real.
Oh yeah, those are cool. That's what's going to make this podcast cool, because I'm going to be able to tell people, if you want to go listen to one where I don't get asked the same questions over and over, go check out what Jason me did. It was funny. It was offbeat. I love it, man. Don't stop doing that stuff.
Well, when I hear it, it's like you really resonate with me. I'm like, this is why I like Stu, because truth is, you're a brash dude. People are going to find you, and it's the Howard Stern effect, right? Like, people will tune out or they're going to listen forever.
Sure.
But people need to listen to you because you clearly are making an impact out there. And I, like we talked about with social media, I value what you put out there because you've done it and you're leading by example. Now, knowing that, tell me what the biggest mistake, I'll go Microgym, because you're not focused only on boxes. When I say boxes,
Sure.
it's typically CrossFit. Yeah. But what's the biggest mistake Microgyms are making?
Me that I've made, or that I see the rest of the industry making?
That you see right now in 2019 happening?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is currently right now, and again, microgyms, the biggest portion of that is going to fall into the CrossFit thing. Let's not get confused. CrossFit created this microgym movement 100,000%. 100% credit goes to CrossFit. But now there's so many that they never affiliated because they couldn't afford it, or they didn't want to. They wanted to forge their own path, or whatever it may be. And then you have these high intensity $1 million franchise models that have all extended off of this. But the biggest thing right now, I think, for the mom and pop, the people that are listening to this, people questioning their CrossFit affiliation, possibly, which is their brand, right? They might have their own brand. They might be CrossFit South End or CrossFit East or whatever, but they are a CrossFit affiliate. And now they're playing with the idea of, should I rebrand? I don't know what CrossFit's doing. I don't know whether I want to stay, but I also, I think people at some point, they look around and they maybe hear of what NC Fit did, Jason Khalipa's gym, formerly CrossFit NorCal, now NC Fit, or maybe see what Stu did, or Metabolic, or any of these other companies. And they're like, oh, okay, well, they changed and they look to be doing really well. Is that the secret to success? And I'm here to tell you, it's not the secret to success. You will not rip CrossFit off the wall and people come running in. I just had a come to Jesus moment. We had I had a call with the client, and I explained to him, you realize, I've been rebranded in this new company. It's 3 years old, Urbn Mvmnt. And we've taken, let's call it a 30% annual revenue hit. And all I did, because I gutted the entire thing, I got rid of the CrossFit, I changed the class style, I got rid of all those kind of clients. You don't make more money when you rebrand, not immediately. The only reason you rebrand is because you truly just don't want to do the thing you were doing. Your core values and your core focus changed. I see, and that's why I'm doing that self-made summit, is because that's my number one question I get. I'm thinking of rebranding, and it's a buzzword now. It sounds cool to say, right? I think people just want to use that term. And I'm like, well, why? Well, I don't know, man. I don't like what CrossFit's doing. I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't really affect you. So why are you wanting to rebrand? And we have this conversation. We get to it. They don't really want to rebrand. They might want to do what I call repositioning. They might want to just adjust and elevate and sophisticate the brand. And there's definitely a process to that you can do. But, it's really identifying what it is they like about CrossFit versus not, and is rebranding or not a good move. But one thing, just so everyone understands, you don't make more money when you rebrand immediately. You make more money when you stop doing something you don't agree with, or you don't love as much anymore, and you change the method or the model, whatever it is. If any of you guys instantly just, I don't believe in kipping. Let's say you believe that. You're like, kipping is the devil. I don't believe in it. We're never going to kip. And you just ran a gym that was just strict gymnastics, and that's what you said, to say, listen, all you guys with jacked up rotator cuffs, you ripped your infraspinatus, or your teres minor got all jacked up doing butterfly. We're the gym. We do nothing but strict gymnastics. Come see us. You will get so strong. And there's a niche of people that be like, that's what I want to do. I would rather be able to do 5 strict bar muscle ups than 1 kipping. And you will attract a certain kind of client that wants to look like bar stars. You ever see those big Jack Black dudes that are just prison ripped, just crushing it? And they rarely kip. I mean, they can do everything strict. And you'll attract a certain kind of clientele. So it doesn't make you more money necessarily. Just when you do something you really believe in, that always makes you money.
Yeah, and just because you want to go to strict doesn't mean you don't do CrossFit. I like what you're saying. I think people I'm going to rebrand, they envision hey, I'm changing my colors to blue and pink.
Sure.
Or rebranded, where they don't realize.
Come up with a clever name. They want to come up with an Uber. They want to come up with a name that sounds like, ooh, wow, that's kind of neat. They want to have that, because we did CrossFit. The one thing we did because we all didn't know any better. We just fell in line. What did he do? He said the word CrossFit, and then he put his geographical location. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. CrossFit, and then my geographical location. And we all did that until geographical locations ran out. And then it became CrossFit, some kind of adjective. CrossFit, some kind of, and then people ran out. Now you got CrossFit, adjective, animal, Greek word. And like, you just have this like, yeah, Greek word, just some, you got to go to a Latin dictionary now to figure out your fucking name. And it really has nothing to do with your core values. You're picking your CrossFit affiliation name because it's what's left in the pool of English words available.
You said prison ripped. I would think it's hard to get ripped in prison.
That's all those guys have time to do, is to do push-ups and squats and plyometric push-ups. And,
but the nutrition has got to be, I don't think they're serving out.
You're right. I don't think any of those guys are getting 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said that if you can take the nutrition quality down to a degree. But if you have 24 hours in a day and you're physically, like you're literally working out of boredom for 4 to 5 hours a day, I don't know. Maybe it's just good genetics too. But yeah, prison ripped is just always what I've called it. I just think of dudes just doing pull-ups on the yard.
I feel like you have to say, hey, you cannot work a shitty diet unless you're in prison.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? Maybe they get protein shakes in prison. I don't know. I've never been.
Commissary, you gotta, it's a lot of hours mopping to get a proteins, progenics in the prison. So if somebody does, what are some things you might throw on a checklist then? Yeah. Okay. And as you know, I'm very biased. I love CrossFit. Yep. I would put CrossFit on any gym I own because I truly believe in it. Yep. But I would say, hey, you can make your own rules. Do you want to go strict only? That's cool.
Yep. 100%.
I think a lot of people are, I'm rebranding, I'm taking CrossFit, but they're still doing CrossFit.
Yes, correct. And again, you've seen I'll use Jason as an example only because I've been able to see it firsthand and be able to talk to that awesome dude. Jason rebranded, but you walk in and nobody, not the consumer and not him, is confused as to what they do. They just do it differently. They just tell a different story than maybe the other CrossFit gym down the street. And each CrossFit gym in and of itself tells a slightly different story. But like Jason was one of the first to really go all in on aesthetics. There were some gyms that did it before Jason, obviously, but like he was one of the ones that really showed it off and really showed like, hey guys, amazing storefronts and retail locations. This is what it would look like. And this is how we decided to separate ourselves from the other 19 gyms in, Mountain View, California. So for you guys, so a checklist, here's my thing. The number one thing I think to any gym that's growing and wants that you have, the very first thing you have to do, it's not expand your equipment line, increase, the size of your building. You need a co-pilot. I put 100% of my success, not only on my ability and knowledge, because I've been in this industry my entire life, but I put all my money I had and I did invest in new equipment. I invested in one human. Her name is Sarah Isaac. She's my general manager. She'll be our franchise operator. And she has been with me since 2011. And I made sure that her compensation for her fulfillment climbed up. I was lucky. There's the guys there, write this down. The people you want to grow with your business, especially if you can't afford a proper salary today, is someone young, single, not married. If they can check all three of those boxes, you can probably get away with not being able to compensate them 100% where they need to be from day one, but you'll be able to fulfill them 1,000% from day one because they will.
You just limit that to young and single?
Yeah, young
single. Not married.
I say, yeah, young single just because, young single, but no kids. Cause you can be single and have a kid.
There you go. Right.
Young single, no kids. Because you need to be at that point in your life. You're probably most CrossFit micro gyms are not going to be able to provide a $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 salary right off the bat. It's something they're gonna have to grow with, but that's exactly what I did with Isaac. I tell this story all the time. Hey, Isaac, how much you make at Bank of America? Oh shit, I can't do that. How does $600 a month sound? But every 3 months, I'll add 500 to that salary.
500?
500 every 3 months. But think about it. In 3 months, can I close 3 memberships at that time to get me a recurring revenue of 500? And can I keep my retention at 96, 97%? And I could. I was fully capable of it. So, and I just did that. From 600 to 1,100, 1,100 to 1,600. And we just climbed it and climbed it and climbed it because fulfillment was high from day one. She quit a nice paying Bank of America job to come work for me for peanuts. But it's because she's young. And at that time, you'll say, fuck the money. to go and have fulfillment and do something you love. This millennial generation is all about that, right? So I was able to hack that. But if I were, and she's pregnant now and she's been married.
She broke two of the rules.
I couldn't, I know, right? But that's why I would never be able to get her for that same deal today. You know? So, but everybody listening, you need a co-pilot. Like, don't buy 5 Echo bikes. Don't go buy 50-pound dumbbells and ski ergs. Don't expand the building until you've expanded staff. A full focus / full-time person. That's someone who's, and I don't even say 40 hours a week, because there's weeks she works 55 hours a week.
But there's, so, you know, young and single, I get it, but there's got to be more to it. That dude on the side of the road was also young and single. What are some other characteristics you saw in Isaac that made you think this is the girl?
She had no, I didn't want anybody with formalized fitness experience. I wanted someone fresh. I wanted you know how harder it is to take a bodybuilder who's just super like muscularly developed, but range of motion is dog shit, and trying to like work with them on it. I wanted someone who had no fitness experience. I wanted to take someone and build them from the ground up. And even like, you know, even with us rebranding, we're getting our coaching program accredited so that I could do all my training in-house. Right. I used to just outsource and send all my coaches to the level 1s and level 2s, which I still think is the best educational platform out there. I truly do believe that. I'm not just saying that because Jason's sitting here on the other side of the screen. I really do. But I needed speed. And at the rate in which we're going to have to with the franchise route, I have to have it in-house. It just has to be. You can't be doing this and then tell people investing in a franchise, oh, we're just going to send them to CrossFit level 1s. That doesn't fly with them. So with her, I did everything in-house with her. She did go get her level 1, obviously, and her level 2, but she was well on her. I mean, she was on the business side on her way, way beyond that, because it was all in-house. So what I look for someone, I wanted someone without any fitness experience. I'd rather take a unicorn, someone fresh who's never done it, who I don't have to correct old habits. It's tough. It's difficult. And you guys listening right now that you hired a coach and you worked at another gym for 3 years prior, you will have to break them a little bit of their old structure. And for me, now again, that's an outlier scenario. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but that's what me personally, that's what I prefer that. If I don't get it, doesn't mean anything. Deuce, who's my assistant GM, he worked at Brian Strump's gym, a very good buddy of mine right down the street at CrossFit Steel Creek. He worked there for over 5 years. And now he was part-time there. He's full-time here now. And I mean, it took a little bit longer than it did with someone who was fresh. But at the same time, he's absolutely invaluable. Isaac's pregnant now. She's going to be having a kid, and Deuce is going to be my go-to during that entire period, and he's fully ready to go. But yeah, it's those are the things I look for, me personally.
Talk to me about pricing at a gym. You go on Urbn Mvmnt minus the vowels, just in case people want to check out Stu's site, urbnmvmt.com, Urbn Mvmnt. You got a drop in price, you have your 10 classes, but it doesn't appear that you have your price for a membership.
What we did, and that was strategic, I've never hid prices in all the years since 2010. Never hid prices. It's always been on the website. Once I dropped CrossFit and I was Urbn Mvmnt, I wasn't getting as much traffic from an SEO perspective because this is a new thing. So people we were getting tons of views to the sites. And even when I geographically radiused it, because the views we get to Urbn Mvmnt that are just microgym owners that like find me and learn WTF and want to see what Urbn Mvmnt's doing, skews the data a good amount. But so even when I isolate it, we were getting a lot of views to the site, but I wasn't getting a lot of contacts. And if any of you guys have never optimized your search console, go to Google and put in Google Search Console. And that is something for free you have access to. And you're able to install that or sync it up with your website and see all the search terms, which pages people are going to. It is like, again, if you're not, I'm not an SEO guy, but I know enough to be dangerous. And any one of you could be the same way. Go be dangerous. Look at your search console. But we were seeing people were getting to the pricing page and then not hitting us up. So what we did is we experimented. And I use a company called Flex for my website and CRM. And I contacted the guy, Joe, who does the website. I say, hey, man, can you go ahead and tell people that they got to give name, email, and phone number to get it? And it actually worked really well because honestly, because we do PT first, which is meaning we require people to do one-on-one coaching before joining a group program. We tailor it. Like you starting off, like what you pay us in the beginning is different for everybody. Some people are doing 5 sessions. Some people might be doing 10. Some people might be doing 2 sessions we're letting them in the group and they're doing a remedial 30-minute session every 3 weeks for the next month. Right?
Is there a formula for this so that you and your staff know?
Yeah, you know what? I leave it up to the coach who does the consultation and what we call day one. Day one is my word that we've developed with Urbn Mvmnt branding wise, because I hate the word consultation. It sounds too medical. So our day one appointments, when we have someone come in and we give a tour, we sit down and talk with them, and then we either ghost them or do a fitness assessment. That's where that coach, whoever's doing that, he's 100% in control of telling them what they have to buy if they want to get started here.
Well, and obviously that day one resonates, because it's like, hey, this is the first day of your journey.
Correct. And we want it to be day one of many.
I like it. So with Urbn Mvmnt, your goal is to franchise. How many franchises are you looking to have out there?
Not a clue. And I don't have any aspirations for it. The one thing I want to do is I've done a little bit of everything, right? I did the mobile personal training, and I think back to my early 20s when I did mobile personal training and the money I made as a side hustle. And I wish I was documenting back then. It was silly. I did that, the boot camp thing, the CrossFit affiliate, all this stuff. I don't know, to be honest with you, Jace. I do know that What the Fuck Gym Talk has afforded me a really cool, unique opportunity to make some really cool connections, whether I've ever met them in person or whether they just like listen to my content, with microgym owners all over the world. And I think a lot of them listen to what I do and what I've done, and they look at Urbn Mvmnt in day one and like, dude, this guy is, I'm not going to lie, that's pretty fucking sharp. And who knows, maybe at some point in 3 years when I open up franchise applications, there's going to be WTF fans that listen and be like, you know what? I've been doing this thing for a while and maybe I'm really successful. I'd like to do something else. Maybe I like Stu. I want to get in on what he's doing with Urbn Mvmnt. I'd like to own one of those. I'd like to franchise that. Or maybe it's a gym owner who's like, I don't know what it is. I'm CrossFit East or whatever it is, and I've been trying forever. I just can't make it work. I would love some business direction. I would love to be associated with a brand like Urbn Mvmnt and a brain like what Stu has and the team he's put together. I'd love to have that direction and have geographical protection in this unique model. And I'm going to retrofit my gym. That's one of the things we're going to do. We're going to create a retrofit option where a microgym currently could, for a less cost, retrofit their current location. There's certain locations that won't work, some that will. But yeah, I'll be honest, I don't know. I don't really have any aspirations. I want 2 corporate-owned ones here in Charlotte. And then I want to open it up and kind of see. I've got some cities that we've looked at and visited that we think would be good fits. But again, we're still talking like 2-3 years down the road, which to me seems like tomorrow. But I know for a lot of people listening, that's like, oh, that's way off. Like to me, that's literally next week.
Yeah, especially in that franchise world.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned the Self-Made Summit a couple of times. It's October 19th and 20th. It's in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is a easy airport to get to if you wanted to fly in. And they actually have some great food in that airport. They got barbecue. They got a Burger King. They got a stick bun. And they got the rocking chairs.
Yes, they do. So yeah.
Nice. So talk to me about this summit. Why should I go?
So this summit is 100% designed to help very few people. It is designed to only help microgym owners or CrossFit affiliates who are considering repositioning their brand or completely rebranding it. And they're on the fence. They're just not sure if it's for them. So what I did is I brought together, I got Steve Pinkerton, who I believe, do you know Steve Pinkerton? He owns CrossFit Vitality. You guys did an open workout there. CrossFit HQ did an open workout there back in 2014 maybe. And Steve has an amazing CrossFit brand. And then he created a separate brand attached, kind of like a lot of gyms try to do with a boot camp or a light version. He did it at a level that I've never seen done, with a completely separate company, a completely different brand and an identity and all this other stuff. And it's completely exploded. It dwarfs his CrossFit program, right? He went ahead and he purchased the building like I did. And his business acumen is very high. And he's a very unique model. So he's one that stuck with CrossFit and created a second brand to appeal to the other group that doesn't want CrossFit. I have Mike Jones, who owned 3 of the larger gyms in Minneapolis, CrossFit St. Paul and all these other ones. And then he rebranded into Alchemy 365, which is probably one of the most innovative models we've seen that truly does combine yoga, barefoot, gymnastics, or yoga mat, and kipping, right? Like combined it and interwove it into an amazing class structure. That is 5 locations in Minneapolis and 2 or 3 locations in Denver right now. And then I brought in Brandon, Cullen, and Kirk, who own a local company called Metabolic. They owned an affiliate here in Charlotte. And 2012, they decided they saw an opportunity in the market to do something a little bit more space effective. And they went and created Metabolic, which is they franchise. They're going to have, I think, 10 locations in 8 states by the time the Self-Made Summit happens. So I went and got guys that all did great as CrossFit gyms. They just all saw an opportunity to do something a little bit different. Obviously, myself will be there as well. And I wanted to get them together because this idea of rebranding and repositioning is not a common one. It's not like we're not a lot of people are talking about it in circles, but no one is saying like, here's a panel of experts that have done this to the tune of multiple locations. Like Metabolic is a franchise and Alchemy 365 is corporate owned, right? So like 2 different models, depending on which route you might want to go. There's probably some gym owners who think like, I can do this. I've got 3 CrossFit gyms right now. I think I could franchise this. Who do you go to talk to about that? There's not a lot of guys in our space. So I wanted to bring all them under one roof. And then we also have Joe Tabaldi, who's my branding and marketing coach. He owns Flex, who does our website and CRM. And Joe's one of the best branding minds out there. I'm so freaking, fucking so lucky that I have physical access to him. He's literally here in Charlotte. And he's just been one of the best interactions and relationships I've made in my business career here in Charlotte. He's going to be speaking on taking your brand, and if you're kind of not in love with it anymore, you want to change it, how to make it come to life, how to make this new idea, how to think tank on that. Because that's the hardest thing. You talk to someone, it's like, I just want something different. And you're like, well, what is it you want? And they're like, I don't know. I can't even begin that abstract thinking process. Because that takes a very different mindset to think of how I want someone to make my brand feel, right? Because we don't own our brands. Our customer owns the brand and how they resonate with it when they hear the name. What does their gut say and their brain say when they hear the name Urbn Mvmnt? And so we don't own it. We can try to cultivate it, but we truly don't own it at the end of the day. We just hope that we put all the right pieces out there and the end result is positive. So that someone goes to Urbn Mvmnt like, dude, yeah, it's kind of like CrossFit, but kind of less like competitiveness and just a little less intimidating. Or it's like Orange Theory, it's just not as boring, or however they resonated and however they talk about it. But yeah, that's what the Self-Made Summit is. It's 2 days, guys. And the day before, Jace, you're going to love this. Because you haven't been down in have you done a seminar in Charlotte recently?
Not recently, but I've done a handful in Charlotte.
I know. You came to my old location a couple times, I think. Charlotte is a hotbed. Literally on one road, we have a Barry's Boot Camp, Metabolic, Urbn Mvmnt, F45, Orange Theory, and Eat the Frog. Now, some of these brands, some people have never even heard of, like Eat the Frog maybe and stuff like that. Like these are multi-million-dollar franchise locations that are coming to a city near you. Promise you that. Mark Wahlberg is shoving F45s down the throats of franchisees in the fitness space all over the country. They're coming, and so we're going to do a Microgym bar crawl that Friday ahead of time. People are going to be able to come, and we are going to go take a couple classes at a couple of these different ones to see the class experience, to learn what are these guys doing that we could like, and maybe think about how we could steal it, running it through our own branding machine, and do something different and better at our own gym. And because it's a lot of people don't have that opportunity to have all those big players in a 2-mile radius like I do. So we're going to do a bar crawl the Friday before.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, if you go, like you mentioned earlier, Times Square, you go to New York, you see all those Barry's boot camps everywhere. Personally, I've never even heard of Eat the Frog. I know the book by Brian Tracy, Eat That Frog.
Correct.
I'm assuming that's kind of
you eat a frog early in the morning. It's the worst thing you'll do every day. It started up in Canada, and they've made their way. They were in Arizona, very heavy in Arizona, and now Charlotte and Tennessee.
I want to read a quote from your website. During this 22-month process, I got married, built a new house, my wife had a baby. Oh, and I started a business consulting service. Does anything sound wrong about that sentence?
No. What? I don't know if did I include that I built a house and I bought a building. I don't know if I included that.
You include, your whole, just so you know, I'm on WTFGymTalk.com. There's a section that says about Stu. So I was reading that earlier before we got on, and it makes it sound very much like your wife was over there. She's having somehow she got pregnant. I wasn't involved, but she had a baby also.
Yeah, also had a baby. Yeah, we had a child. It was my wife did that thing. My guess is that anybody visiting the WTF Gym Talk website, they're more concerned. Everyone's very selfish in their pursuits when we go from awareness to the consideration phase of buying. So guys, if you don't know the 3 stages of buying, there's awareness, consideration, and then purchase. And if you're at a website, you are now in consideration mode. You're aware of a brand and now you're going to consideration, and you might be thinking of purchasing. And I'm one of these guys, I don't like to talk about myself a ton. Like even when I give a bio and all that, I like try to keep it brief. And my personal stuff aside, I try to like, oh yeah, my wife, or we've been married this long, or all that. Like I don't go into pretty much too gross of details on it, because people, they're there to find out how can Stu unfuck my business. And I'm just trying to probably stick to that.
I found that personally, we talked about comedians earlier, and really what they're doing is just putting words in different orders and laughing about it.
Yeah.
And, when I read that, it made me laugh, because I'm like, I truly, in fairness, I questioned. I was like, was he the dad when I read that? I was like, oh, he married someone who had a baby. That's cool. Yeah. Like I didn't think anything of it.
Paternity test is still out. We'll
look at the hair. No,
you got to see this kid. She is definitely me. That's definitely my kid. But yeah, just that's my wife didn't proofread that one, obviously, before it went live on the website.
Stu, before we wrap up, tell me a book that you recommend all listeners read. Oh, he's got it near him.
Primal Branding by Patrick Hanlon. There are 7 elements to every brand that if any brand that you mess with, that you enjoy or you look up to, has 7 elements to it. And Patrick Hanlon broke those 7 down. And this book is one that you need to make sure that you're taking notes throughout, because you're going to start thinking like, oh, lexicon are sacred words. Like if you meet another CrossFitter that you've never met before and you say Cindy, you instantly have language together. When I created Urbn Mvmnt, I got rid of all the CrossFit lexicon. We don't call things WODs. We don't use the word AMRAP, because I needed to create a separate identity. So creating my own lexicon was such a long, lengthy process, but it's important for brand, kind of like Starbucks. Go anywhere else, say, I want a venti. Yeah, you got it. You nailed it, right? So it's stuff like that. So there's 7 elements. Pagans and haters is another really unique one. You need to figure out who is going to be your pagans, your haters, people that will not buy your thing because they're not into it. And it's not a bad thing, but you have to identify. Too many gyms, and tell me, Jason, how many times you've heard this? I'm CrossFit so-and-so, and whether you've never done CrossFit before or you're a high-end competitor, we can help you. Now, that may be true. And yes, you will get both. They will trickle in, but your marketing message must be clear. And that is not a clear marketing message. That spectrum is too broad. It'd be way better if you said, hey, we're CrossFit so-and-so. And if you've never done CrossFit before, we can help you get started. Couch to CrossFit, whatever. And will you get some of those high-end people that trickle in? Sure. But your marketing message would be way more effective if you spoke to a specific avatar. And when you identify who you want to speak to, you have to identify who you don't want to speak to. In this book, that's one of the 7 elements they help you with.
Yeah, and that's very reminiscent to me of Simon Sinek's, first talk that took off about Apple.
Yeah, his golden circle, the why one. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
exactly, which is one of my favorite books. All right, well, your bang is almost done, which means, you got to go hit a class or whatever you call it at Urbn Mvmnt. What do you call it?
Oh, no, there's just classes. Yeah, there's classes at Urbn Mvmnt, yeah.
I think you should really go with some sort of redheaded lexicon there. Like really, like everything has to do with ginger and all that.
That's the thing though. I don't want Stu to be associated with the Urbn Mvmnt at all. Like that's the hardest part when we create content for Urbn Mvmnt, like our podcasts and stuff like that. I have to I don't want to be a part of it, because Google search, it's going to fuck. People are going to search me or something. They're going to find what the fuck, and they're going to get confused. And so yeah, I'd love to pull myself completely out of it.
Makes sense. No, you don't want to be the brand. You want the brand to be the brand.
Sure, correct.
Well, you've nailed it. We've had a great conversation ranging from redheads to cursing to, the Self-Made Summit, which I highly recommend people checking out. Anything else you wanted to add? Let me roll the red carpet out for you.
Oh, yeah, no, that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, you can, anyone can reach me at WTF Gym Talk on every handle. I do a vlog on YouTube and then the Instagram like everybody else. And I'm because this is my full-time job. Like I'm going to finish this bang and I'm going to get another bang. And then I've got 3 videos to shoot today. And it's just one of these things where I pride myself on getting back to everybody via audio message or video message typically. Like there's nobody that's probably sent me a question through any media channel that I haven't responded to with my voice or my face. And anyway, go ahead.
You know what? I think more people need to do that. I got a really personal text the other day from a good buddy of mine, and he sent it to probably 10 to 20 people. And it was long. I took a moment, I read it, and I called him. And I left a message. He didn't pick up. And he got back to me and said, "You're the only one that called." And he said, "That really meant a lot to me." And honestly, the reason I called was because it was easier.
It's easier. I audio message everybody for the most part. I don't text. It takes me too long. And my thumbs, I'm just not good at texting. So I just hold down the audio message and I leave people those little audio voicemail kind of things. And here's the thing too, for my kind of delivery, because I text like I talk. "Hey fucker, what are you doing? Let's go get some fucking lunch," like that. My tone comes off a lot more authentic, and people are like, "Oh, he actually sounds like he's kind of a good guy. He just has a potty mouth," when I do my audio message. So I recommend that to everyone. You're right though. It's way more personal.
And if you're tuning in and you're hearing Stu for the first time, let me also say there's science that proves the more you curse, the smarter you are.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure you got that from Stu by the end of this. He's clearly smart. Everything you said is great. I love it. I love what you're doing. Like we said, I'm a CrossFit guy, to the end, but I can appreciate what you're doing. And one thing I do like about it is there are people out there that are de-affiliating but ripping off CrossFit.
Yeah.
They're trying to create something new, and I think it's a very different thing.
Yeah.
So, I can appreciate that, and I look forward to seeing more, and hopefully there'll be an Urbn Mvmnt down the road in Naples. I'm sure Naples will take a little while to get here.
That might take a little while. That might take, again, I got to get that SPF 1000 to come on down there.
Yeah, you'll get burned by the time you land. So, well, I appreciate it, Stu. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks again for coming on the show.
Jace, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you, dude.